Welcome back, troops. Let's tab 59. As you can see, we've still got the rain. Hope you're all well. I'm going to have to duck into the shed or somewhere because obviously I film off a mobile phone. And if it gets wet, I'm screwed. I mean, maybe you can get, I don't know, is there such a thing as a waterproof mobile phone? There probably is. I don't know much about stuff. There probably is. But I should imagine they're expensive, and to obtain one, you've probably got to sell your kids to medical experiments or something just to work one out. So let's just bear with me while I get sorted. I can't go indoors because I'm covered in mud. I've been out in the fields, and I need two hands to take my boots off. If I go in with my boots on, trace around or throw a track, and I'll be in deep poo. So it's going to have to be in here, unfortunately. Hopefully that's not too bad with the camera. I can nearly rest it on my bench, look. How about that then? Right, so I hope you're all well. If it's your first time visiting the channel, welcome. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider it. Anyway, what we're going to talk to you about today? Well, I want to talk to you about what we got up to. I'm talking young soldiers, young single soldiers mainly. What did we get up to when we were out in BAOR, West Germany, West Berlin it was, during the 70s and 80s. That was a period that I was in serving in Germany. I've been back to Germany, obviously, in my service, but I was never stationed there again. I left there in 85, 84, 85. I left Germany, and I never got posted back there again. So I just wanted to talk about some of the things we got up to. What did we have? How did we get on with stuff? From my own experiences, I'm sure everyone's got their own version of what they've done and got up to, etc. So, first of all then, there was a huge drinking culture, especially amongst the single lads out in West Germany, in BOR. And I think that was mainly because we were all clumped together. When a weekend come along and you got a weekend off, you couldn't just nip home. It wasn't like you were stationed in Tidworth and lived in Birmingham. You could just jump on a train or your car or whatever and get home for the weekend. We couldn't do that. And some people might have done. I mean, some people might have gone home for a long weekend maybe, but it was a lot of hassle. We were in Celle, which was quite deep into West Germany. I think we were only about 40 minutes from the East German border at some point. So it was difficult for us to get away. So every night was like a Saturday night, unless you was on duty. You know, it was a big drinking culture. Booze was cheap. It was in the NAFI. It was all tax-free. You could buy bottles of booze, buy bar behind the bar in the NAFI in the camp. It's a huge drinking culture. In fact, BAOR, British Army of the Rhine, that actually stood for Boozy Army of the Rhine. I mean, I knew guys out there that were functioning alcoholics. That's how bad it was. I mean, everybody was drinking pretty much. I'm not saying everybody. I'm sure there was some very fit guys out there, PTIs and that didn't go on the piss all the time. But most of us young soldiers did. So, and I think it was encouraged to a degree as well. I mean, we had a battery bar, 156 battery in 9-4 Locating Regiment, had its own bar at the end of the accommodation floor. And I think they all did. I think we all had battery bars. And of course, like I say, you had the NAFI bar. And in Celle, in Taunton Barracks, just along from the NAFI, was another bar called Freeman of Celle Club. And they'd have, like, cooks would have their function in there, or there was all sorts of times it was open, a disco now and again, whatever. So there was bars everywhere. And as I say, the drinks were really, really cheap. And you could buy booze from the family's NAFI downtown, and that was very cheap as well. So blokes always had drinks in their room, tucked away, slabs of beer here and there, yellow handbags packed away. There was booze everywhere. And even if you'd done, I don't know, say it was an inter-troop competition or something, the winning prize would be a slab or two of beer. You know, that's how you got rewarded. So there was always a piss up. And I remember seeing on exercise spear point, written in one of the toilets, it's got exercise spear point. Someone written underneath it, exercise, what's the point? And another phrase underneath it said something like, I don't care who wins World War III as long as there's a piss up at the end of it. It's just a huge drinking culture. Beer was always taken on exercise. Even when you was out in the cuds, people would tucked away in a vehicle, somewhere there'd be some booze. So there was a heavy drinking culture. So what do we have apart from that? Well, camp facilities. So I can only talk for our camp, which was, I say, was Heide Kaserne, Taunton Barracks in Celle. We had, obviously, I say, a NAFI bar. Next door to that was a small NAFI shop. You could buy a few bits and pieces. And we had the Freeman Cellar Club. Above the NAFI there was a NAFI cantina as well. You could get food at certain times, and there were some vending machines in there. Not a lot by today's standards, maybe. Upstairs above the NAFI was a gymnasium, but I think you could only go in there if you were supervised. I don't think you could just go in the gym and work out. As far as I can remember, I may be wrong. I wasn't a gym queen. I didn't go there. Upstairs, also where this gymnasium was above the NAFI, we had a TV room. That's right, a TV room, because not many people could own a TV. Even if you had one TV in the block, it's difficult. So they did have a dedicated room, the TV room. And I'll talk about what TV we had while we're out there. There was also a snooker room up there. I think it had 2 full-size snooker tables. And that could be a bit of a laugh. If the bar was open, you could go and get a couple of bevies, bring them up and play snooker with your mates. In fact, I learned to play snooker there because I'd never played snooker in my life. So we had that. Getting back to what we had facilities-wise, there was a few clubs on camp. I remember there being a sub-aqua club, British sub-aqua club on camp. Most of the officers and local Germans were in that. But I can't remember if there was, I don't know, a golf club or something. I don't know. There wasn't much for the average young soldier anyway. So again, he was having a drink. We didn't have, so we had TV. We had a TV station, one station back initially, and one British TV station, and we had British radio. So we had BFBS, British Forces Broadcasting Service. As all we called it, bumbling, fumbling, burbling service. That might sound a bit unfair, but the early days of BFBS. So BFBS was actually in Celle. It wasn't in our camp. It was up the road where we always had an armoured infantry battalion in a camp called Trenchard Barracks. Up there was the BFBS studio, if you like. And what used to happen was, over in UK, they had a place as well, building, maybe in London, I can't remember. And they would videotape, if you like, or tape record shows from BBC One and ITV, because that's the only channels we had at the time in the UK, maybe BBC Two. So they would record maybe soap operas, I don't know, Coronation Street, stuff like that, a bit of news, World in Action, maybe Top of the Pops, I can't remember. They'd record certain shows, and then they'd have to edit them to get the adverts out if it was ITV, because there was no adverts on BFBS. Get rid of those adverts, and then those tapes would be flown out to Germany, to Hanover. They'd get collected and driven up to Celle, taken up to Trenchard Barracks, where they'd be prepped for the next showing. So we was always a day behind with anything we got. So if Coronation Street was shown on a Tuesday, we wouldn't get it till the Wednesday, say. So we had that one channel, and it wasn't a 24-hour channel either. And as I say, we had the radio station as well, BFBS radio. That was 24 hours. That was quite good. It played all the pop songs and stuff of the day, and news announcements and stuff like that. And then a request show, just like a normal radio station. I remember actually talking about the radio station. I think it was on a Sunday evening. Every Sunday, there was a guy called David Rodigan. I think that's his name, Rodigan. And he had a show called Rodigan's Rockers. So on every Sunday evening, he'd play reggae music. That was quite cool. I liked a bit of reggae at the time. So that was on. So BFBS, bumbling, fumbling, burbling service, you can imagine they're working out of a small place in a barracks up in Celle. And sometimes, forgot to press the button, or it just went off or whatever. There's all sorts of issues with it. So it did bumble and fumble along a little bit. It got better over time, obviously. So we had that. Now, interesting enough, with BFBS, there used to be, as I say, there was no adverts. But sometimes as a filler in between programs, you used to get this German lady. Many of you boys are going to remember this. And she ran a little show called Instant German. It was only on for maybe 5 minutes. And it would be on several times throughout the evening's viewing, inserted between programs. Instant German with Karina Schnabel and her parrot. What was that all about? She'd have a parrot up in the corner here somewhere. And Instant German, Karina Schnabel. And she would say, we're in the supermarket today. You want to ask how much those baked beans cost? Was kosten das? And then you'd repeat it. What's kosten das? And that's how you tried to learn a bit of German. Most of us, we learnt our German downtown in the bars and nightclubs and dens of iniquity. That's where we learnt our German. But anyway, yeah, this show was on Karina Schnabel, Instant German. So we had that in camp. Now, as I say, we had a TV room because we was in rooms, accommodation rooms for the singlies, with probably about 8-man rooms, but they were never full of 8 men. From my memory, we never had a whole room with 8 men in it. There always seemed to be plenty of spare bed spaces. No one really cared if you moved from one room to another. So you sort of slotted in with the guys that you mixed with mainly. So I think there was like maybe 4 to 5 men in a room. So that gave you a bit more spare room. It meant you could probably have an extra locker in your bedroom. And also it meant that you had space to maybe get an old sofa that was going free off of a pad that was moving, or bought a new sofa downtown. One of the pads would be selling off or giving away an old sofa, an armchair or something, a coffee table. And you'd acquire it and, I don't know, stick it in the back of a 4-tonner off the Maricourt patch, get it back to camp, carry it upstairs to your room or whatever, and you'd have a little communal seating area. And you may, between you, rent a TV. Now, you could rent a TV from what was the SSVC, Sound and Services, Sound and Vision Corporation. I think you could rent, or maybe from the NAFI, maybe you rented your TV from the NAFI, I can't remember. Or you could buy one on tick from the NAFI. And you could do that between the guys in your rooms. You had the one telly, because you couldn't argue over what you're going to watch because there was only one TV channel, so it didn't really matter. Of course, later on, VHS and Betamax and Video 2000 come out in the NAFI, and it cost you, an arm and a leg to buy a video recorder, video player. And I think on our camp as well, there was even a place that was renting out videos, not latest movies, but you could rent videos. And of course, there's a bit of blue going about as well. Some people started to acquire the odd dodgy German blue porn tape or whatever. So we had that. But that was pretty much it. Downtown, we had in Cellar a Family's NAFI. It was like an old wrinkly tin Nissan Hut affair, like a little supermarket. On the other end of that was an SSVC cinema, a kino. So it was a proper full-blown, like getting UK cinema. And they would show different movies, obviously, that come over, run for a week or so. You could go down and watch a movie on a weekend or whatever it was. So that's pretty much all the facilities that we had when we was there. Newspapers, well, obviously, Soldier Magazine was knocking about. We weren't really interested in Soldier Magazine, to be honest. There was a newspaper called The Sixth Sense. I think that come out maybe weekly. I don't know. I think it was a free newspaper. That would be thrown around the block. And that just had, about a quarter of it was adverts for cars for sale from the NAFI and stuff like that. I think there was another newspaper, maybe called the Union Jack. That seems to ring a bell. And I think either that one or Sixth Sense used to have a pen pal section. And there'd be girls in there wanting to write to a soldier in Germany or whatever. And they'd leave a P.O. box and you could write to them. And lads used to do that sort of detail. Write to some chick in England telling her you was an underwater knife fighter, steely-eyed killer of the night, some rubbish like that. Anyway, there was that. We did get UK newspapers come out. We had a little, only one a PRI shop, but in the centre well of the barracks, there was a little shop. I don't know who run it actually. It wasn't a NAFI. It's like a little sweet drink shop. They sold newspapers and stuff in there. So that's pretty much all we had. So because it was limited, and you've got to remember our age group, we didn't want half all the stuff that was there. So we were going out drinking all the time. That's what we had. So there wasn't a great deal. There wasn't a great deal of everything for us to do. And I think that's why there was such a strong drinking culture in Germany. Anyway, I hope that's brought back a few memories for you that were out there in BAOR. You might have other stories to tell about BFBS and Karina Schnabel and the sort of stuff we had. And maybe you was one that, didn't fall foul of becoming an alcoholic in the Cold War days in Germany, and you were a good lad and, I don't know, saved up your money and bought a brand new car off the NAFI or something. But the most of us, it was just get hammered, basically. I don't know how we survived it half the time. Anyway, troops. It's enough waffle from me. I think the rain's eased up. I'm going to sack it now and go and get myself a brew. Until the next time. and it won't be long. Consider subscribing if you haven't. Take care, everybody. Remember, let's tab.